What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be looking at what I believe to be the best lethal piece of equipment in Black Ops 3, and that is the Thermite. Let's get into it. Alright guys, let's start this off with the stats of the Thermite grenade that I was able to calculate. Keep in mind, none of these stats are taken from the in-game code by any means. They were all hand-tested, and therefore there is a little bit of room for error, and I'm sure we'll eventually get those actual hard-coded stats. But from what I was able to calculate, we have, first off, a hit area as well as a burn area. So the hit area, this is going to be the hit area right here. If you're anywhere within this area as the Thermite lands and explodes, you will take a little bit of damage. I have no idea how much damage this actually is. It doesn't seem to be very significant though. The person that's throwing it will also get a hit marker at this point. But you only get that one hit marker. They don't like light on fire or anything at this range. They just kind of get hit and kind of knocked back just slightly by this Thermite at this point. The enemy doesn't actually start taking damage beyond that first hit unless they're within the burn area. And this is what I was able to calculate is the burn area. It's actually pretty much exactly the same size as a domination point in this game. Now within this burn area, I was able to calculate that the Thermite will deal somewhere between 34 and 45 points of damage to you, keeping in mind that you have 100 points of health. It will deal that 34 to 45 points of damage every 1 second that you're within that burn area. So it doesn't deal all its damage at once like a frag or a Semtex would. It deals its damage over time. And this means you can actually stay within that burn area, assuming you've taken no damage from anywhere else. You can stay within that burn area for up to 3 seconds before dying. It's also really important to note that the Thermite will last for a total of 5 seconds. So if you're within that area for 3 out of the 5 seconds, you are dead. So now that we've seen the burn area as well as the hit area of the Thermite grenade, let's have a look at how far you can actually throw the Thermite in comparison to something like a Semtex. So I did 2 tests right here. I aimed at the exact location before throwing the Semtex as well as the Thermite, and it landed in pretty much the exact same spot. So your throwing distance is the same whether you're using a Thermite or a Semtex. I will be doing a really detailed frag versus Semtex video, possibly even frag versus Semtex versus C4. I'm not too sure, but that will be coming out probably within the next week or so, so stay tuned for that if you want to see more throwing distances. But I only compared it to the Semtex in this case, and it seems to throw the exact same distance as a Semtex. So now that we've covered all that, now I want to talk about counters to the Thermite. And guess what? There's actually no hard counter to a Thermite except get out of the burn area. With frags and Semtexes and C4, you can just use Flak Jacket to pretty much completely ignore those grenades. Like you could be standing right on top of them and you'll be just fine with Flak Jacket. With Thermite, there is no hard counter to that. There's no perks. There's nothing you can do to your class to make the fire not hurt you as bad. You are going to die if you stay within the burn area of the Thermite. And this is why I really prefer Thermite over frags and Semtexes. Even though I don't necessarily get as many kills with the Thermite, it's really effective for keeping people away from an objective or away from a really popular piece of cover if I throw a Thermite well. I can keep them off of that and I don't have to worry about them having some sort of a counter perk to my piece of equipment. They have to move if they want to stay alive. So now just a couple of tips for using the Thermite effectively. Obviously for objective game modes, throw this on a domination flag or throw this on a bomb site or something like that, and that enemy simply can't go within that capture area or can't defuse that bomb or plant that bomb for the duration of that Thermite, as long as the Thermite was thrown accurately and there's no special capture spot to avoid it or something like that. So that's a great tip for objective game modes. Also, you can use this for people that are using really popular power positions. So if there's a piece of cover that is overlooking a big area or a lane or something, if you throw a Thermite behind that piece of cover or maybe beside it, then you force that person to move or die. Now, a lot of people, they just kind of whip it in the general direction. They don't really plan it out very well, and they kind of throw the Thermite in front of the piece of cover, which does absolutely nothing because the piece of cover will protect them from the Thermite. So make sure you're throwing it either behind or beside those pieces of cover if that's your goal. Also, one thing that I've noticed is when you have an enemy that's in a window and you're standing right below that window, if you throw the Thermite just inside the window and you hit the ceiling on the inside of that room, it will actually stick to the ceiling and burn on the ceiling and burn anybody that tries to come into that window. I use this quite often actually, because I will often find myself like on Fringe or Redwood. I'll find myself right below a window and I know an enemy is right above me. I just whip that right up, sticks to the ceiling, and then it burns them as they stand in that window. Another thing that it can be used for pretty effectively is throwing into doorways and choke points, which will turn most enemies away from trying to come through that doorway or that choke point until that thermite has expired, basically. And this can be a great thing to sort of watch your back, especially in like hardpoint. If you have a doorway, if you have two doorways you have to cover, you can throw thermite in one doorway and then just watch the other one. But on the other end of that, if you see an enemy doing that and he's like looking away from you and he used a thermite to cover his back, just remember it takes 3 seconds for that thermite to actually kill you. So you can just run straight through that doorway, straight over top of that thermite, and try to get behind the enemy and kill him, or you can slide through it. And yes, you will take some damage, but you will make it through as well, and a lot of times you'll take them off guard. So I definitely wouldn't recommend this if you think the enemy is like pre-aimed at that doorway and ready for you, because you do take a relatively significant amount of damage just by sliding through that thermite. You will take that 34 to 45% damage, which is quite a bit. So make sure the enemy is looking away from you if you're going to run through a thermite to try and challenge him. So that's going to wrap it up for the thermite. Let me know in the comment section below, which is your favorite lethal piece of equipment? Do you also like the thermite, or do you prefer the frag or the Semtex? And please let me know why. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.